Reddit, it's time to go throwaway shopping. What is the weirdest, creepiest, or just all around most terrible thing you have ever done that no one knows about? Myself and 10 or so friends were spending the night at a house for a 12th birthday party. The house was quite large, and we decided to play hide and go seek. The person who was it, let's call him Todd, stayed in the host's bedroom and waited for a couple of minutes while the rest of us chose our hiding spots. 15 minutes pass. No one has been found. 10 more minutes pass. Has Todd even left the bedroom? Myself and the host of the party got out of our hiding spaces to check on Todd, to see if he was asleep or something. We knock on the door to the bedroom. "Come on in," shouts Todd from the other side of the door. The host and I proceed to open the door, to find Todd naked on the host's bed, masturbating furiously, and laughing at us as we walked in and saw him. A few weeks later, and me and few friends are in an AIM throwback chat room with Todd and a girl he has a crush on. We tell her the whole story. She laughs via text, makes fun of Todd, and leaves. Todd has never spoken to me or anyone else in that chat room since that day. This was over 15 years ago now. Many years ago, 2 friends and I stole 2 headstones from a weed-strewn country cemetery. We were 17, drunk, and we wanted some props for the spook house we set up in an abandoned farmhouse. Nobody had been buried there in 50 years, so we didn't think anyone would notice. 10 years later, I remembered the tombstones and started feeling guilty. I called the other 2 and we all met back at our hometown. We dug through the debris of the old farmhouse and found the 2 headstones. We returned them to the cemetery and tried to remember where they belonged. We put $500 each in an envelope and mailed it to the maintainer of the cemetery, telling what we had done and how bad we felt. A few years later, I drove past that cemetery and looked around. The headstones had been put back where they belonged and had been cemented in place. The signboard by the entrance had a note saying, "Thanks to an anonymous donation, we have a new riding mower to keep the cemetery clean." I still feel crappy about what we did, but I'd like to think our atonement helped someone who cared about the place. Not me, but a friend of mine went to a house party with a friend. Nobody at the party knew my friend, and the owner of the house was being a huge butthole to him. My buddy snuck a pot into the bathroom, took a huge crap in the pot, put the pot on the oven, and cranked the burner and left. This is my favorite story here. Crap myself when I was 6. Hid underwear in one of those chair cube things that open up. Commandoed upstairs and changed, and forgot about the underwear. My fiance and I are still together to this very day. However, when we were teenagers, he snuck me into his room and had to go out to a concert with his dad. I just spent the time watching TV, played a bit of Diablo 3. Now, his mom wasn't supposed to know I was there. I slowly needed the bathroom as time went on, but I kept hearing her downstairs, just humming or going to the bathroom and just existing. But as time went on, I desperately needed to go poo. It got to the point where my poor butt was hurting and throbbing. I was slowly getting panicked and saw a lone empty Tim Hortons cup on his desk. I squatted in the middle of his room and filled the cup right up. I put the lid back on when I was done and put it in his garbage. I threw a bunch of extra tissues in the garbage and cleaned up his room a little to cover up the cup. Sprayed Febreze in his garbage and used sanitizer in my purse to clean my hands. Heart beat fast when he came home later on that night. Complimented how I cleaned his room and made it look nice. I just smiled nice, hoping to God nothing happened to the garbage bag that the Tim Hortons poo cup was in. When I was at college, I was at a bar and had, miraculously, started a conversation with a group of 6 cute female nursing students. I offered to go buy everyone a drink, got in line, and the guy in front of me bought a Long Island iced tea. The bartender asked if he wanted to put it on his tab and what his name was, so he said, "Yeah, name is Justin," so he leaves, and a different bartender comes up to me and asks what I'll have to drink. I ordered 7 Long Island iced teas and said, "Yeah, put it on my tab, name is Justin." To this day, this is the most horrible thing I have ever done. Was at a party back in high school. I was severely high and my friend convinced me to crap in the cat's litter box in one of the bathrooms. It was a tremendous log, something a house cat could never make. We had a great laugh about it after my friend saw the damage, but the real laughs came the following Monday when the girl who hosted the party was freaking out about her cat's giant crap. To this day I think she still believes her kitty took a ducky of epic proportions. It's been almost a decade and I still bust up laughing whenever the thought enters my mind. Terrible, I guess. Lied about finishing college. I'm pretty socially inept, and since I spent tons of time at home alone when it came time for the ceremony and everything, no one in my family questioned that I didn't want to go. Main horrible thing is that even though I failed the entire last year, and my degree being STEM and very technical, I just listed my degree on my resume as if I had graduated. I started applying for jobs and got an interview at a big company, like one so big that they would definitely do legit background checks. I went through all the hiring process, lying all the way whenever I needed to about my degree, basically just waiting for them to stop calling me once they found out I never graduated. Never happened. Instead I got a call one day for my official start day, and have now been working here for 4 years. I basically live in constant fear that I'll be found out and dread the thought of leaving this company and being found out while getting another job. I've turned down doing things that would have my name more out in public in fear that someone will do the research and find out I never graduated. I have an ulcer and I'm convinced it's because of this related stress. I'm still a very solitary person and pretty okay with it, so I think about getting some job unrelated to my degree in a warehouse, factory or something and move back in with my parents just so I don't have to live with this anymore. The local blood donation place keeps calling me for donations but has also kicked me off a machine for O negative blood. So now they called because I quit donating and I finally got fed up with the constant calls and told them I got the HIV. That stopped them. After my divorce I moved out of the house and into this luxury apartment on the 3rd floor of this brand new building. Unfortunately, the view from my bedroom was of a Kmart parking lot. But I would sit on my bed and watch people go in and out of the store occasionally. One day a particularly hot blonde was walking from her car to the entrance, and I wanted to get a closer look, so in a rush I pulled my scoped hunting rifle out of my closet and ogled through the crotches. Over the next few weeks, standing next to my bed with a hunting rifle became a fairly common thing, just zooming in on butts and boobs like it was nobody's business. It wasn't until a friend came over to check up on me that she noticed the rifle up against my nightstand. At first she was worried that I was considering suicide, but then I explained to her that I just use it to watch people go in and out of Kmart. Apparently that's not really a normal thing to do, and despite my assurances that I hadn't had ammunition for it in years, she insisted on buying me some cheap binoculars. TLDR. Watched shoppers entering and leaving Kmart through a scope attached to an unloaded rifle. IDK, it's horrible, but I had a piece of crap friend that bragged about how much money he makes and what a badass he is at his job. He really turned into the worst person I knew, and that's after putting up with decades of insults and abuse. Anyway, he got way into those quick order Amazon buttons. He had tons of them. Every time I went to his house, weekly, I pressed them all. Made that sucker spend like $300 a week and he blamed his girlfriend, LOL. Every time I went to his house, weekly, I pressed them all. The mental image of this literally made me laugh out loud. Thank you. One time when I was younger at a house party, one of the guys who owned the house was being a real dong to me. I was incredibly drunk and high, and I knew that if I tried to fight him or stand up for myself it was going to end badly for me. So I went in the bathroom and I shoved his toothbrush up my butt. The part that makes it even worse though was that he had 2 roommates and I didn't know whose toothbrush was whose, so I did all 3. There is only one other person who knows this secret. The worst part about this is realizing that 2 people got a shit brush for no reason except for the fact that their roommate pissed someone off. A few years ago me and my wife moved into her parents' place to save some money, so we were adjusting to living with parents again. It was strange and uncomfortable. I woke up one morning and it felt like the world was about to fall out of my butthole. I went to open the bedroom door and could hear my father-in-law getting ready to head out for work. I'm panicking thinking, frick, I know this is gonna be bad. I'm not gonna go take this mega dump so early on into our time living here. I need to devise a plan. I stayed in the bedroom, emptied out the little bin we had in the corner, and crap into the bag that was placed in there. I wiped my butt with some tissues that happened to be on the side. Stand up and tie a knot in the bag. Now I'm getting ready for work with this bag of crap by my feet. My next stage is to get rid of this thing. I can't do it in any of the bins here. Think frick it, I'll take it out and find the nearest one I can see. I even question putting this bag of crap in a neighbor's place if nobody sees. I walked 15 minutes to work with a bag of my own crap in my hoodie pocket until I could find a public bin to throw it in. TLDR, I crap in a bag and carried it work. I think it's creepy, weird, gross. I got my period when I was 11 and it freaking terrified me. My parents never talked to me about it. I was 15 before I said frick it and actually took charge of everything, so for about a year I hoarded my used pads in a box in my room. I had the sense to put them in nappy bags, but Jesus fucking Christ. The smell. Flowery death. Same. My mom found it and gave me so much crap. I have a 6-month-old Labrador puppy who still needs to go out at night. The rear of our garden borders 2 houses. It's summer in the UK, which means windows open. When I take Papa out, I forcefully fart as loud as possible at the bottom of the garden. I just like the thought of an angry fart suddenly tearing through the silence of the night. So I live in a semi-detached house and my bedroom shares a wall with my neighbor's bedroom. I occasionally hear their gross coughing and arguing. Sometimes I'll get my own back in the dead of night and let one rip as loud as I can. I know it wakes them up because I can hear the coughing start up again. It's gloriously satisfying. After discovering I had been cheated on, yet again, I posted an ad on Craigslist professing my love for some other woman I'd never met, just watched casually at work. I was desperate for love, depressed, and honestly never thought she'd even read it. About a day later I got an email from some friend of hers, very accurately describing who I had in mind, so I knew it was legit. Apparently my post scared the crap out of her and they considered calling the cops about it. I don't know what I was expecting to happen, but based on all the chick flicks I'd ever seen, I was hoping for romantic and not call the cops scared. Never talked to her, never attempted to talk to her, and obviously never did anything so stupid since. I mean, it's Craigslist. When I was a teenager I broke into a house at about 2 AM. With every intention of robbing it. I broke a window, climbed on through, and proceeded to put every expensive item I could find into one of the bags I had with me. Literally ransacked the place. I was about to leave when I realized that my parents did not raise me that way. I dropped the bags on the kitchen floor, left an apology note and ran the frick home. I never admitted it to anyone. I still can't. It's a horrible thing. Maybe not the worst, but I took away someone's sense of security, which is irreplaceable. About 4 years later I was an adult and working a decent job. I put $500 in an envelope with a note that said for the window I broke. Put it in their mailbox and never looked back. Props to you for owning up for your mistake. I'm sure they appreciated it. Very early in my relationship with my then boyfriend, and now fiance, I spent the night at his apartment. He had to leave for class before me, so I slept in his bed. When I got up, I had sudden violent diarrhea. No warning, no stomachache or gassiness. Just the second I stood, it started falling out. I sat down, and it stopped. Weird, stood back up, and it began pouring out again. I quickly sat down and assessed the situation. His roommate had just gotten into the shower in their 1-bathroom apartment, and he was notorious for hour-long showers. I was wearing heavy sweatpants, but the poop wasn't going to be contained for long, and if I waited for the roommate to finish showering his bed would be wrecked. I looked around the room and spotted a plastic trash can about 4 feet from the bed. I very delicately and quickly waddled to the trash can, dropped my pants, finished the job. I had somehow managed to only get poop in the trash can and in my pants, so I looked around for a way to get the pants off without getting poop everywhere. Aha! His dirty beach towel was on the desk from last weekend. I stood on the towel and undressed. Thankfully, he used a liner in the trash can. I placed my poopy pants and underwear into the trash can, cleaned up with the towel, and threw on a pair of his boxes. I quickly wrapped up the poop mess in the trash and shamefully crept into the kitchen, praying his roommate would stay in the shower a bit longer. I grabbed 2 more trash bags and darted back into his room. I placed a new liner in the trash and threw some wadded Kleenex in there to cover my tracks. I sprayed some air freshener and opened a window. I then placed the poop towel in the second bag and snuck out of the apartment with both bags of poop mess. I threw away the trash bag and took the towel bag home. I immediately washed the towel twice in my dorm washer, along with his boxers. That night, I snuck the towel back into his room in my backpack and placed it right back where it was. He never found out until 4 years later, when he almost pooped his pants and was embarrassed, and I was drunk and tried to comfort him by telling that story. He laughed and then threw away the beach towel. Holy crap. This is my favorite comment on this whole thread, lol. I know everyone cheats a little in Monopoly, but I feel extra bad about this one. I was a banker. BTW. I pulled the chance card and it was the houses and hotels one. Like pay a certain amount on each house hotel. I was almost out of the game and that card would have made me lose. So I lied and said it was the beauty pageant. Collect $10. That was about 3 years ago and I still think about it. I don't cheat in Monopoly. I'm manipulative and a dong, but I don't cheat. You should feel bad. When I was 7, we had a bird's nest above our patio light. I so very badly wanted a pet bird and my parents would see me watching the nest, plotting and planning. They forbade me from messing with it. Being me, I threw all care and caution to the wind and took a broom and knocked the nest down. Babies and all. The bird parents were rightfully angry and so were my folks. I couldn't believe my awesome Snow White plan failed. The next day the nest was gone from my patio, as were the babies and parents. I still have no idea what happened, but still feel terrible for my selfish kid curiosity. I've tried to help a bird before after it fell out of its nest. I got a ladder, put on some gloves and put him back up there. About 5 seconds later he jumps off again, this time landing on his neck. I don't know if I killed him after that, but it sure felt like a crappy situation. Years ago I went to my friend's place to check up on them. I knocked on his door for ages and ages. If it was any other friend I would have just left and came back later. But this friend at the time was struggling with addiction. Anyway, so I knocked and I finally decided to use the emergency key to get in. So I went in, called out, no answer. The music was so loud and blaring. I found him in the kitchen cleaning some red fluid all over the place. So I didn't ask any questions. I just put my hair up and grabbed a sponge and helped him clean. Till this day I don't know where it came from. We have never talked about it. The most terrible thing I have done was not asking questions. You'd know if it was blood. The smell of large amounts of blood is incredibly overpowering. Metallic, tangy. It's a smell like nothing else. You'd know. I was 20, and before my first deployment to Iraq, I told my parents I wasn't getting any leave before deployment. I lied and spent my 2 weeks of leave in Tijuana with a friend banging strippers and drinking underage. Old enough to go to war but not old enough to drink. That makes sense. Oh frick me. Well, seeing as this is a brand new account, I have never shared this story before. Warning to you all, it's bad, so please have mercy on me. I would just like to clarify that I have never done anything remotely creepy or disgusting like that since, and am a normal, fully functioning adult. Kids just be weird. I did however eat pineapple pizza more than once, though, and enjoyed it. Anyways, back in elementary school, maybe grade 5 when I was 11 years old, there was this girl in my class that I had the biggest crush for maybe 3 years. One day, the class goes for a field trip, but forgetful ol' me forgot to get my field trip form signed, so unfortunately I was unable to go. The teacher just had me stay inside the class the entire time doing work or whatever he made me do to pass the time. I was alone. It was at this age I had discovered masturbating and was a frisky little crap. I looked to my left, the door was closed. I looked to my right, the door was closed. Perfect. Both doors are closed. I walked over to my crush's desk and searched inside her bag just out of sheer creepy curiosity. Inside, I found a pair of pink underwear, possibly what she had worn for gym class. I cringe every time I think about this. I used those panties on my dong, right inside that very classroom. I wrapped it around my little boy wee-wah and went to town with it. To make matters worse, I got super into it, taking off my pants completely and just lying down on the desks that were set up side by side, masturbating with this girl's underwear. Looking back at it, I am so thankful nobody walked into that room because, holy frick, wouldn't that be a sight to see, some kid, butt naked on top of the desks jerking off with a pair of pink undies. I didn't orgasm, but I did get a visible amount of pre-CM on her underwear. When I decided I had enough, I put it back into her backpack, zipped it up like nothing ever happened, and sat down at my desk to continue doing whatever it was I was doing. So yeah, that happened. TLDR. Stayed behind in class during a field trip, masturbated with crush's underwear. Came here to read Cumbox level shame. Got attempted infant murder and successful murder. Well, there's a lot of cooming into photos and underwear in here too. My ex's family treated his dog horribly, always putting her in the basement with the lights off and yelling at her for practically everything even though she just was a pup and wanted attention. His grandpa seemed to be one of the worst offenders, saying she had rabies, putting her outside in bad weather, etc. I always tried to give her as much attention as I could when I was there. When everybody was upstairs, I'd go in the kitchen and take food out of his grandpa's lunchbox that he packed for the next day's work and put some of it on the dishes they eat out of and let her enjoy some nice home cooked meals. After she was done licking the plates, I'd put them back on the shelf. Don't mistreat a pooch. Okay. Throw away because I don't need my so to be reminded that I used to be this freaked up of a person. Backstory. My best friend got me to sleep with her, I'm female, on my birthday, and many times after. We had a sort of best girlfriends that also fricked relationship going on. Obviously I started to develop real feelings for her, even though we were both sleep with other people. Time passed and we got a little more serious. Then she met a guy in our apartment building. And after hooking up for a couple of weeks, they made things official. It kinda crushed me, but I persevered. We remained best friends, with her constantly stringing me along the whole time, telling me she still wants to be with me, etc. Flash forward a couple months, him and I were the last ones up drinking one night. One thing led to another, and he propositioned me pretty strongly. I accepted and we hooked up in the bathroom. I didn't feel guilty at all. I was doing it out of spite to her for all the emotional stress she was causing me by fricking with my head and stringing me along. I continued to sleep with him for the next 3-4 years. 2 years in, she decides she's just not happy with him anymore, but cannot financially afford to leave him. So she starts her old crap, saying she's always been in love with me, and she wants us to be together and be a family. They had had a son by this point. So, me being on her hook, I went for it. We were now sleeping together, and that's pretty much the gist of this story. I was sleeping with him out of spite for how she was treating me, and I was sleeping with her because I was blindly in love. They eventually broke up, and I no longer talk to either of them. But I always wonder if they ever realized that for a couple of years, they were both cheating on each other with the same person. You are a demented genius. I bartend at a movie theater and I intentionally tell people to enjoy their show so they can accidentally say you too. I'm an awful human but it's still so funny to me after a month of doing it. Man, this is a nice change of pace from suffocating infants. Also, I'd totally do this if I were you. Haha. Edit. Scroll a little further down if you're confused. Not a throwaway. I can own this story. Back in high school, I was sometimes a less than stellar person. I went to a school with a dorm. We had prank wars. My most favorite took place in the winter when the vents were blowing hot air into people's rooms. I had an RC truck with a trunk I would fill with raw crab meat. I would drive it from room vent to room vent on a rotation of a few days per week. I like to think of their vent as my crustacean bus station. The rooms were all in a line of a wing, with the other side being women's dorms. So I had a straight track there and back for my meat truck, no turning or navigating, and would only drive it when I could be sure no one was in the rooms. Dinner usually. I could maneuver by driving straight and I could tell where rooms were by the rectangle of light shining down into the vent bus station. I had a little hand mirror I would angle down my own vent to see. Kids were waking up and running to other kids' rooms to sleep. Many times they may even vomit when they opened the door to their room if it festered all weekend. I would complain about the smell myself so it would throw the dorm staff off. I knew my dad was the one they would call for maintenance, so I would just wait until he texted me he was coming by, usually to take me out to dinner since he's in town, and pull out the RC car that day. I would then hide the meat in my room and the RC car under my bed. It was just so simple, so evil, and so well executed time and time again. Never was caught. This is still amusing enough to me that when laying awake at night remembering it, I still sometimes laugh to the point of tears. TLDR. During winter I would drive my meat truck up and down the vents of our dorm, blowing warm, raw seafood smell into different rooms every night. A little while back I used to live in this small apartment complex, 26 units, that had a good view of the parking lot. Because it was a small complex, I knew most people there. I made friends with a neighbor who also happened to sell a bit of weed. He had a female friend that would stop by often. She was absolutely beautiful. Petite frame beautiful butt, gorgeous face and a killer personality that would make your insides melt instantly. I quickly learned what kind of car she drove. Every time I'd see her car parked outside, I would hit up my buddy to see if he wanted to chill. I got to know her a bit from randomly running into her at my friend's place. After a few months of this it came out that she had recently broken up with her longtime boyfriend. I myself had gotten out of a serious relationship about a year prior, so I was able to relate and even comfort her a bit. One day I was with some friends at a local brewery and happened to run into her. It was the first time we were able to talk outside of the immediate presence of friends and we hit it off real well. First date came a few days after that, and that was about 2 years ago. We've been dating ever since and are getting married in a few months. TLDR. I stalked a friend of a friend, making it seem like random encounters until we actually had a random encounter. Now we're engaged and getting married soon. That is actually a great story, man. Good for you on the pending nuptials. All the other comments in here are about bodily fluids and cheating. Yours made me happy. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.